Doug Boring World Series Reviews. I got a little follow-up, little addenda to the 1912 episode because I read a book. Yes, I can read, despite what some jerks say about me. I read a book about the 1912 World Series, the first Fall Classic by Mike Vaccaro from 2009. And it added some color, some detail to the series. A really good book. It goes over the series game by game and explains a lot of the historical events in the United States going on at the time, including like the Becker trial, which is about a murderous police officer, and like what William Taft was doing, which was being dragged around by his wife on vacation when he really wanted to be watching baseball. And then Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt trying to get reelected after his first term. He gets shot like partway through it. So it's a really interesting time. In a lot of ways, the World Series overshadows that in people's imaginations, which is crazy. It makes it sort of the first World Series that was a big popular U.S. public event. So I just want to go over some of the stuff that I read about and didn't really catch, doing my usual like baseball reference, this great game, research that I do, BR Bullpen, all that stuff is a lot of fun if you want to read about this stuff. But this is a lot more interesting, a lot deeper, I think. One thing I showed some pictures of but didn't really discuss was the big electric scoreboards that were posted up in the various cities of the world so people could watch the games sort of in public. People were just gathering in the street, like in New York, like Times Square, and then in Boston, in the Commons, and just anywhere you can imagine in the cities and all around the country and larger cities as well. It's like an early version of going to the sports bars. I'm sure there's vendors going around and talking stuff. Very cool, actually. People would post up in large groups and watch the World Series sort of played out in these big scoreboards with little mannequins representing the base runners and stuff and up-to-date, lineup and action that they were getting via telegram. There's even a picture that shows this big section of the telegraphers sitting there and tapping away during the World Series to keep all these different outlets updated as it happens, like early play-by-play stuff. Very, very cool. Pictures are great. I would have probably been there myself. I think so. Some details about the teams that I didn't really catch. First, I want to apologize to Heinie Wagner, shortstop for the Red Sox. I think I called him I didn't understand that he was like the team captain and the peacemaker on the team. And so I think I called him like a Hans Wagner knockoff or something because he's a shortstop named H. Wagner. But I gotta give him some credit. This team had a lot of conflict. Apparently the Red Sox did a lot of like Protestant versus Catholic, a lot of, Northern versus Southern kind of enmity. I told you I can read. And Wagner was the captain of the team, and a lot of his value apparently came from being able to keep the different sides of the team on the same page, and also from just hating John McGraw because he dropped him from the Giants in early tryouts and earlier in his career. So very cool. Additionally, Heinie, I'm sorry because I did a little research and found out a little something about why so many players were called Heinie, and let's just show this little educational short film as a sort of a explainer and an apology to Mr. Wagner, Mr. Heinie Wagner.
On December 24th, 2025, I posted the following.
The future of nicknames doesn't really look good to me. I mean, what do we got nowadays? Big Dumper? It's about his butt. It's his nickname's about his butt. Like, they wouldn't do that. Yeah, they're gross and deadball, but they would not do that. I mean, it's like Big Butt Johnson. There's just not a guy that does that.
While only moments earlier in the same video.
If you're German, they call you Heinie.
The dead ball players had been calling all of the German players butts the entire time. What a bunch of dicks.
Heinie Wagner, I should have said that, man. I shouldn't have said that. That wasn't cool, man. On the topic of captains, Larry Doyle was the captain of the Giants. Interesting, you have a manager and then a captain, especially because the Red Sox, both of them were on field. Jake Stahl at first. Interesting fact about Jake Stahl, too, that I didn't catch was that he had been retired for a year and was like a banker in Illinois, I believe, and got sort of called back into the game by the owner, Jim McAleer, from the Red Sox. And so he was almost sort of begrudgingly there. And it wasn't really known as like a managing genius, a strategy guy like John McGraw, but more just a reliable player and a veteran voice in the dugout. As soon as the Red Sox pissed him off too much, he just went back and resumed his career as a banker a couple seasons later. So he just kind of didn't have a lot of patience for the owners and the nonsense. A couple key injuries that I didn't really pick up on. Tris Speaker injures his ankle, I think in the first game, sliding, and just suffers from it till nearly the end of the series, till about game 7 or 8, he says he starts to kind of feel better. And so he's just not himself in the outfield, not as mobile. I didn't really catch that. And another one that surprises me is Larry Gardner, who's not exactly really prolific at the plate, but is definitely hitting the ball at the right time in the series, being in the right place at the right time. Has a horrible injury, I think, to his pinky that had been broken and wasn't like really healed properly. It says some stuff about bones poking out. I don't really know, but that's gross. His pinky was not good. His pinky was messed up. It was all weird looking. And it hurt. So I don't know, he played his nuts off. He was I really enjoyed learning about Larry Gardner. Very cool guy. I'm kind of sorry if my cat keeps meowing during these, but basically she gets to do whatever she wants, and she's nearly 20 years old, and I respect her a lot, and I think everybody else should too. She's the producer of the show. So some additional facts about the 1912 World Series that I learned from the first Fall Classic by Mike Vaccaro. Kind of will go in order in relevance to the games. So apparently the players only shared in on the money from the gate receipts for games 1 through 4 as sort of an anti-gambling, to keep the bookies away from them, a measure against gambling. And because of that tie game, the players sort of figured that they should get an extra day of the gate, and the owners and the National Commission absolutely refused to. So you had a lot of very angry players who were also arguing with management the entire time the series is going on. I don't know, maybe explain some of the hot and cold nature of the series. And Game 5, apparently Fred Snodgrass, who's going to be one of the villains and sort of goats, but not in the capital goat sense, in the doofus bonehead kind of sense, he nearly starts a fight with the fans in center field in Game 5 in Boston. There's fans literally on the field just behind ropes in most of these World Series games when they're well attended, just because the outfield was so far away and it just didn't really matter to them, and they just make up whatever ground rule they felt like. And Snodgrass was going back and forth with the fans. Apparently some fans rushed him, and he tackled one guy and threw a baseball at another guy. The police had to come out and calm the crowd down a little bit, and I believe Snodgrass's teammates had to come kind of yell at him a little bit, and apparently this is something he kind of always did. You remember 1911 World Series, he slides into Frank home run Baker and tears his pants and spikes him in the shin on purpose. He's a nasty little guy. He's a nasty, rough little dude. Fred Snodgrass kind of sounds like a jerk. Also in Game 5, a ball hit to the outfield rolls into a sort of a little hole between the wall and the fans in the outfield. It's not in the ground rules that that's like a double or anything, and it causes a bunch of chaos on the base paths. John McGraw gets really upset and argues with the umpires that should be a ground rule double. The commission hears him, and so further into the series that balls hit into this little hole are going to be a ground rule double. So let's just remember that, and that John McGraw is the reason for that as we go forward. The Game 6 incident with Buck O'Brien, whether or not he was intoxicated, drunk out there, this book says straightforward that he was. It says that he was out drinking later than a lot of the team the night before. Stahl held the information that he wasn't allowed to use Smokey Joe Wood per owner Jim McAleer for kind of nefarious reasons. He didn't reveal this to the players till the next morning because he didn't want to upset anybody that evening. And so O'Brien was not ready. His balk, where he balks in a run, in the description it looks like he's just unsteady up there wobbling around, goes into his version of a windup, and then just stops and looks dumbfounded. Did he throw this game on purpose? In addition to that, that's another good question. Why did McAleer opt to not allow them to start Joe Wood? And then, speaking of Smokey Joe Wood, why the next morning when he was allowed to start, did he pitch so horribly? He gets blown out of the game in the first inning, similar to O'Brien, who was blown out in the early innings, I think just the first. Did Smokey Joe Wood throw the game? Was there something on, or did McAleer just want to extend the amount of games the series went to with the Red Sox up 3-2 at that point and force a Game 8? I don't know. There's the report in there is that Jake Stahl tells him at one point, okay, you did what you need to do, but in Game 8, if I need you in relief, be ready. And so what does that mean? You did what you need to do. Did McAleer get to him? Did someone get to him? It's possible. All the reports from the Giants batters are, oh my God, he doesn't have it today. He doesn't have it today. And it sounds like he was throwing batting practice with kind of a blank face. Another great incident from that Game 7 is Smokey Joe Wood's brother, Paul Wood, is there, and everybody thinks Joe Wood is going to start this game for sure and tie it up for the Red Sox, and there is lots of bookmaking going on right in the stands openly, lots of gambling, lots of bookies hanging out there, and Joe Wood's brother, Paul, puts down a lot of money on his brother and finds out at the same time as everyone else that just right before the game that O'Brien's starting and not Wood, and the Red Sox get beat. Paul Wood's out a lot of money, and probably a lot of people he was talking to were out of a lot of money. On the trade and ride back from New York to Boston, Wood confronts O'Brien and gets into a fist fight with him. So Smokey Joe Wood's brother tries to beat up the pitcher that started instead of him. Apparently this spreads to the other train cars, and a lot of the rifts I mentioned earlier along religious divides and stuff kind of erupt. And at one point the two catchers for Boston are brawling with each other, Forrest Hick Cady and Bill Kerrigan, which is nuts. Another gripe that I think O'Brien had was, well, if I would have had my catcher, it would have been different. So I think Cady got the start, not Kerrigan. It just was a mess. They tried to deny it in the press, and apparently one of the players' wives just did not deny it in the paper. Said it was the most disgraceful thing she'd ever seen. So the Red Sox were not in good shape going into Game 8. The Royal Rooters, I don't really have anything to add to their situation. I guess I could empathize with them a little more. They sort of reported that in Game 7 when their seats were missing. I think I exaggerated their numbers going into Game 1. I think it was just hyperbole. I don't think it was 1,000 of them, but it was a lot. But in New York, in the Polo Grounds, they were guaranteed 300 seats, and they were also at home guaranteed a certain section. And before Game 7, someone got greedy, like McAleer, the ownership got greedy, and told the police, give the seats away like a half hour for the show. And he's like, the Rooters can stand on the field, I don't care. And they were very upset about that. Combined with the O'Brien and Joe Wood like bombs in the first couple of innings that led to their, if this team doesn't care about winning and this team doesn't care about its biggest fans, then boycott. So I guess I can kind of see that, but they're a real fickle bunch. And they're basically like a marching band too. Just like making a bunch of ruckus down the streets and like making extra train stops to like play their little songs for people. I don't know, they shouldn't have done that to the Rooters, but also I don't have to. Listen, the Rooters are the banana and the Red Sox management is a hardcore band in 2026 terms. That's so niche. Who gives a shit about that? I don't know. I don't have to really love the Rooters, but I can see their side. That's really rotten to be treated like that. I don't know what it's like to feel those suspicions about your team being involved in gambling, so that's probably a high emotion if you're a big fan. The boycott in Game 8 is kind of crazy, though, to really reduce the crowd. I mean, it probably wasn't just them. It was probably most Red Sox fans felt pretty betrayed by them after that. In Game 8, one of the New York Giants hits a ball into this little hole in the wall in the outfield in Fenway, just like in Game 5 the Red Sox player does. The umpire stops the base runner and says, ground rule double, and John McGraw goes, what are you doing? That wasn't a double for them. They got to keep running that out, and we couldn't get to that ball. What happened? And he's like, if you recall, you filed a complaint to have this turned into a ground rule double, and they listened to you, and I'm happy to call that on. And so John McGraw was kicking his little feet. He wasn't happy. He wasn't happy that some of his own complaining and politicking turned on him when it wasn't convenient for his team. The Harry Hooper catch in right field where he falls into the little roped off section and catches it isn't super clear. Another John McGraw turned absolutely red kind of moment. They didn't really see it. I mean, he fell into the crowd and came up with the ball. It was in Boston. Who knows? Who really knows? Another thing that I tried to get some insight on is this call in Game 8 with a Tris Speaker pop foul between first the pitcher and catcher sort of in territory in the first base side, whether it was Christy Mathewson making kind of a call maybe informed by Merkel's past as a bonehead, or whether it was Speaker chipping in. This book tends to side with the idea that Mathewson just didn't trust Merkel and just kind of made the wrong call, didn't realize Chief Myers wasn't going to make it. I don't know. That seems like a Tris Speaker thing, though. It seems like he would do some little nasty thing. It seems like it would be. Those were like really the main insights I gained into the 12 World Series from the First of All Classic. Really good book. First of All Classic, Mike Vaccaro, read that shit. I read it online, so I can't hold it up or anything. I'm not one of those people that needs to like smell books. People talk about smelling books. I'm fine with reading them on the computer, man. So it's just kind of fun doing a book review, proving to people that I'm literate and I'm not. It's kind of fun reviewing a book. If there's another book I would recommend, and then maybe I should do a video on for fun sometimes. The Glory of Their Times by Lawrence Ritter, 1966 series of interviews of old dead ball players and classic players, sort of finding them and interviewing them wherever they are at that time. And it's fascinating. It's some really good insights. Maybe I should read that again and then get on the video and rank the old-timey player interviews by how interesting and how reliable they seem. So yeah, Doug Boring World Series reviews. Read a dang book sometimes. It's not such a bad idea. Read a book, dude.